Okay, welcome to the lesson about camera settings, shutter speed. In this lesson we will talk about shutter speed as a very important factor in taking photos. So what's the shutter speed? Shutter speed is the time it takes, the time how long the picture will be exposed. So you've got the sensor, and in old film cameras you had the shutter, so it was opening and closing, for example for 1/30th of a second. And the film was exposed and then it was moved to the next exposure. Today, with digital cameras, we don't need a shutter. Simply electronically, the camera turns on the reading for 1/30th of a second, for example, for 1 second, then it just disconnects it. So simple. Nevertheless, shutter speed as a name, as a term, still remains, and that's how we are going to call it. So time of exposure is what we are actually talking about here. So if I set shutter speed to 1 second, it means that for 1 second I will be recording everything that's happening around. With a video camera, if I record for 1 second, I will have a recording of 1 second, right? I will have a video of 1 second. However, with a camera, we take only one frame, not 30 frames a second, and if that one frame lasts a second, can you imagine a mess there will be? If people are moving for a second, all those things will be recorded in one frame. So in a video, all 30 frames will be melted into one frame in a picture, in a standard photo camera. So as you can imagine, that's a very important factor. So if you set your pictures to 1 second, will be blurred, plus your hands are shaking a little bit, so there will be a blur caused by the camera movement and the blur by movement of the objects in the photos. Now what's then a safe shutter speed for pictures? If you hold camera in your hands and the objects are not moving very fast, then 1/30th of a second is a safe speed. So that's a normal photo, assuming that you're taking at a very wide angle. It means that your zoom is at minimum, so it's not there but it's here. The further you go with the zoom, obviously the shaking will be more pronounced, so you will need to increase the speed. So if you increase a little bit, then maybe instead of 1/30th go to 1/60th or 100th or 1/200th of a second or 1/500th of a second. It all depends on the zoom and also on the objects, how fast are the objects moving. So the longer the zoom and the more movement or more rapid movement of the object, the shorter the exposure time is necessary to have a sharp photo. Obviously, sometimes you might want to have an artistic photo, and that's why you set shutter speed to longer times, maybe 1/10th of a second, or 1 second even, or 5 seconds, or half a minute even. So you can have actually nice blurry things. So you need to experiment with that. Obviously, if you want to take half a minute of an exposure, it must be night, because otherwise everything will be very bright. You won't be able to see anything except for the white. And probably you don't want that, so half a minute is for the night, and 1 second during the day still will be very bright. However, you can probably manage. Again, you need to experiment. So what I want you to do, I want you to now, once you found the settings in your camera that control shutter speed, set it to various settings. Set it to, let's say, 1 second, take a few photos. Also take, so I want you to take photos at wide zoom for the time being, just the widest possible, wide angle, do not zoom in for the time being. I mean, if you want you can, but it's not now. For 1 second, holding it stationary and taking photos of moving objects, then 1 second but you moving the camera like this during the exposure. Then decrease it to maybe 1/10th of a second, do the same, then 1/30th, 100th and 1/500th of a second. So take those photos and see what happens. Now in my camera, how do we change the aperture settings? If you haven't figured out, you should be able to see, if I set my camera to P program, it shows me here the aperture and the shutter speed. It shows now 30, 20, 15, it changes of a second. In Pentax I have this front dial here, and I can move it to change the speed. So now it's 1/45th of a second, and I can decrease it to 1/20th, 1/15th, and so on and so on. Also, in every camera, or in most cameras, you will have shutter priority mode. In this one, I set it by moving this dial to TV mode. And then, again, using this dial at the front, I can set the shutter speed to whatever settings I want. And the camera will calculate the rest for me. So that's what I want you to do. In your camera, do the same thing. Find the shutter speed control, set it to various shutter speeds, and experiment. Once you've done it, I will show you, I will tell you a few simple tricks how you can use shutter speed to create really creative photos with a nice blur, various effects. But for the time being, I want you to get familiar with shutter speed in general. Go take a few photos. 10-15 minutes should be enough. Again, transfer them to your computer, see the effects on the big screen, on your computer screen. Definitely for composition, the camera screen might be fine, but for shutter speed effects, it won't be. Also, you will very often miss focus when you look here. Well, but when you look on the computer screen, when everything is big, and you can clearly see whether things are in focus or not. So this time do transfer the pictures to your computer if you haven't done it so. Okay, and I'll see you in the next lesson where I will show you some really cool tricks.